Hello, and we are live for the Courageous Leaders Club. Joining us again this Thursday, 11 a.m. And we have the incredible Diya Hofman with us today. Welcome, Diya.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm very good. It's so good. And this is your second interview you've done with me, so thank you for coming back. What you have to share is so valuable. And Diya, is head of project management at the BBC Creative. Previously to that, extraordinaire around some of the best advertising agencies in the world. Adam and Eve, can I ever say this? Adam and Eve, DDB, Saatchi's, McCann, Mother. You have done your time in some of the best places, and now being at the BBC, you must be incredibly proud of yourself. Does that feel good?
It does feel good when you say it like that, actually.
That's awesome.
I feel really old. But do you know what? I've been so lucky, and I do feel like I've earned it, obviously. But what an incredible journey.
Yeah,
it's nice to hear that.
It is, isn't it? Like, oh my God, I've done all of that. How lovely. Yeah. And Diya, we're talking about courageous leadership today, and you've got an incredible story. And if you're happy to share, I know that there was a moment in your life where your life changed and changed the way you looked at the world, and so many learnings you got from that. Are you happy to share what was that moment that kind of just activated all this courage in you in terms of where you now are?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think just before that, who I was before that almost was a 360 change of, I was a completely different person. And I was pregnant, and at 27 weeks, I was happily doing my job, which was a print producer at the time, and was pretty in a pretty cushy job in a really lovely place full of what I would call friends. And I sadly had a collapsed lung, and things went south very quickly. Long story short, I recovered and had an operation, still pregnant, and had my baby afterwards, had incredible support around me, but was also told that I had a underlying condition that wasn't like, at the time they told me I had like 10 years, which was a bit of a shock to hear, but thankfully they got that really wrong. I'm going to grow old and be really ungraceful with it. But, it was scary at the time, and it just felt like everything was getting out of my control. Being pregnant for the first time was hard enough, let alone, getting to hear all of that. Had my incredible daughter. Everything was fine with her. She's perfect. And I had time to recover, and now I'm much better. I'll still always have the underlying lung condition, and it's part of my life, and that's fine. Doing much better with it. And I think for me, I went back to work, as you do after maternity leave, and a lot of women will experience this as not just because I had this big thing happen in the middle of it, but also after pregnancy, you just become a different person. And after giving birth, you just become a different person. And I went back in, and I was told that there wasn't really a role for me, because there was lots of people doing the same job as me. So I was a bit like, I could work as hard as I wanted or do nothing at all, and the outcome would be the same. And my boss at the time was like, yeah, pretty much. And, there's obviously, it's very wrong to hear that, and it's heartbreaking because you're like, but I've given this company so much, and you've given me lots as well. So it just felt like a really horrible breakup. Actually, it was like being dumped. And I think a switch went in my head at that point, because up till then I have so many weaknesses. I have worked so hard. I am owed this. I'm owed the next thing. You have to support me. And I have to follow this path of my career where I stay at a company for a certain amount of time, I grow, and I'm promoted. Surely that's how it works. And I just went, no, enough. And I think it's probably the slight, element of my project management head and my production head where I just like to be in control. And I was like, well, why am I asking for all of these things? Why am I not just taking them? And if they're not available here, then fine, I'll go find them somewhere else. Because I think I learned to sort of back myself.
Nice.
Because I wasn't backing myself. So why would this other person, there's lots more to that story, but why would this other person back me?
Mm.
Because I was just asking for them because I've been here X amount of years, so give it to me.
Yeah.
I've done all the hard work. I've done all the shoots. Give me what I'm owed.
Yeah.
And the realization and the leaning into that the world doesn't work like that was just so elevating. I think that's the only word I can use, because it just freed me of things, and it just made me go, right, I'm my own boss. I control my career. I control, certain things in my life, maybe not my health, but I do have a certain amount of control over things. And I think that was just, it was really rewarding. I changed as a person completely.
Yeah.
I became more confident. I used all my weaknesses, like I'm a girl, I'm Indian, I'm, all of those horrible things that you keep your inner voice tells you. Well, like, actually, I'm diverse. I have a voice. I can bring so much with my experience. I've worked at these incredible companies.
Yeah.
And be it, not at the most senior level at that time, but I still have contacts. And it was just amazing. I walked out of there and had a job at Saatchi's the next day. And an incredible team there that I'm still talk to and still are lovely human beings. And it was just the most, elevating. I'll use that word again. It was just like, when I'd cleared the fog and just been like, oh, wow, there's a world out there. Yeah. And I think what was really nice to just, I became my own leader, if you know what I mean. Like, I led myself rather than waiting for a boss to tell me what to do.
Yeah. And I just feel liberated just even listening to that, because as you said, so many people just do what they should do, or what they think the path of the career should be. You see what your friends are doing, you're like, you compare, or they're doing that, so I should be in this position now, and they've been promoted. Oh my God, I should be promoted. And we do just kind of follow what we think is just this one pathway to success.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you just turned that on its head. And it's like, the pathway to success is my own pathway, not what everybody else is doing or what we think we should do. I'm going to carve out my own path, and I'm going to own it. And I'm going to own me. I'm going to own my own thoughts, and not let any self-doubt get in the way of where I'm going.
That's exactly it. And I think there was an element of risk, because why would I give up a really cushy job at a prestigious company where I could spend loads of time with my daughter and sail through life?
Yeah.
But I think that was the thing where I think I was talking to you earlier, when I was coming home on the overground, when I'd just been told, you can do whatever you want, there's not really, much of a job here left for you. And I just thought, why am I giving up all of this time with my daughter to be at a place to sail through? Yeah. I don't want to sail through. And that was a real question I had to ask myself. Do I want to sail through life? Or do I want to push myself and turn around to be able to say to Freya, my daughter, Mummy was away because she was kicking ass, and not just because we needed the bills to be paid. That was really, really important. Or like, I was doing everything I could to be better.
Yeah.
And that's what I've always been told by my parents, is just give it your all. Don't worry about the outcome.
Yeah.
Because that will come if you have given it all your all.
It's the saying, the outcome will take care of itself. If you're showing up as your best self and giving your best version of who you are, the outcome is taken care of.
Yeah.
What I'm really curious about is, because a lot of people, and I've experienced a role and it didn't work out. A lot of people with those things can have a lot of shame around it, or a lot of, oh my God, I was a failure, it wasn't good. what I'm hearing from you is actually maybe if that scenario hadn't have happened, you may have just fallen back on the path of just sailing through because you've gone back to your job, the job was there, you'd have just carried on that same path. So actually going through an event that maybe at the time maybe could have felt like there's something wrong with me, I'm not good enough, whatever, has actually turned into your biggest success.
Yeah, I mean, Joe, I wouldn't have met you if I hadn't left there. Do you know, there's so many. I kind of go through like a shiver every time I think, oh my God, what if I stayed?
Yeah.
And I just did that, like, oh God, like it really scares me. And I'm so proud of myself for backing myself and just going, do you know what? You've seen it be really scary, because actually also what made me realize as well is work isn't everything. And I think a lot of people, especially in advertising, when we do so many hours on pitches and things like that, we just think this is our world. We also hang around with people who are in advertising and this is our world, because this is what we're doing all of the time. And when I had this really forced time away from that bubble and just seeing what the world outside was like. I remember, like, in my freelance year, I also did jury service for a really horrible double murder charge. And I'm just seeing, I love watching people. So I was just watching how these people operate. And it's like, wow, there's a whole world out there. It just minimized the hurt, the rejection, what really happened. They don't have a job for you. Did you really want to stay there? No. So I could have created a big fuss. I could have, gone about it the completely different way, or I could shut up and just put up with it. But actually, there's always a measure of risk that you take with things. And again, my PM head will always do that, and you weigh up things. But actually, the rewards and the success from that, was just the possibilities. Even if I just got one good job out of after leaving as a freelancer, that would have been great for me.
Yeah. And for anyone watching this who's going, okay, this all sounds great, I'd love to do this, but I need to pay the bills, I need to have a secure job, I've just got to put up with it. What advice would you give them? What would be that one step that you remember taking where you were able to back yourself? What did you take charge of that you go, that was kind of where I started and it grew from there? If someone else is thinking, okay, this sounds great, but how do I do that?
I think I'd be lying to say my year of freelancing was all bed of roses, and I worked for really good companies all the way through. There were some really tricky ones. There were some ups and downs. And I expected that. I went into it with my eyes wide open. And that freelance scare of like, oh my God, when's the next job coming from? How am I going to pay my bills? And I think it genuinely was just putting one step in front of the other at days when I was just like, I don't know how to do this. My advice would be, and this is the biggest thing I learned out of freelancing, was put yourself out there. Yeah. Because we've talked about this often, as people are so in their heads, they just I think about me. Everyone is just so in their heads that they don't see what's in front of them sometimes. And what freelancing taught me was I've got to tell people. I don't have to just be quiet, and I don't have to just be like, oh, my CV will speak for itself. I had to really go and sell myself to people and keep going at it. Because it does come, and it comes really annoyingly when you're like, the world's ending, I'm never going to find a job, I'm never going to be able to do this. And even actually some of those smaller jobs that I maybe didn't enjoy as much, I still met people. I still met incredible human beings that were really creative. And okay, maybe it wasn't the best then, but actually in the future, this industry is so small. It's just nice to be able to say, oh yeah, I know so and so. Yeah. So even the bad experiences and the scary bits, I'd still, I still chalk them up, and I still look at them as something that I learned from. The money thing is scary, I'm not going to lie. There's not an easy solution to that, especially given the current climate. I have a lot of sympathy for freelancers out there at the moment. It's terrifying, and it is a gamble that you have to make individually. It's nothing that, you know, anyone can advise you, but just, I think, only take that gamble if you're going to 100% back yourself.
Yeah, go all in.
Go all in,
yeah.
Or otherwise you will struggle a lot more.
And it's a wonderful quote. It's what one of my mentors said to me when I started my business. He's like, Joey, it's a very big difference from are you interested or are you committed? Because if you're just interested in, I think another job would be helpful, or I think, you're not going to give it your all. You're going to be waiting for people to come to you. If you're committed, you'll go and be visible. You'll put yourself out there on LinkedIn. You'll be phoning people you haven't spoken to for years, saying hi, connecting, coffees. That's commitment. And it's those people who can be committed to themselves and don't quit on themselves are the ones you just see that just that ripple effect of backing yourself. I think we've spoken about this a bit on the work we've done together, is what you feed your brain is what you get. What you focus on is what you get. So if you're feeding your subconscious mind of, this is going to work, I'm going to make a difference, I'm going to support myself, I can do this, I'm enough, your brain starts showing you that. If you're saying to yourself, I'm not good enough, I can't do it, I can't risk it, your brain will show you things to say, no, you can't. So it's so powerful what you think in terms of then the results you can get.
There's a real thing as well, and especially with the current conversation about how women are treated differently. I really experienced a lot more. Maybe I recognized it a lot more after I became a mother. Okay. I had so many recruiters, and one in particular, I remember this one particular incident that I was told, you're a mum now, so just take this job because it's easy and you're not going to do any better, because, you know, you want to spend time with your daughter and you want to have the balance, the work-life balance. And I remember thinking, maybe she's right. Maybe this person who's telling me has more experience than me, and why would, you know, nobody wants to do you harm, and I don't think that was the intention. I think it was just a way of showing me a different version of things, and just remember thinking something didn't sit well with me, and that's like, I didn't give up a job for this to settle somewhere else. So actually it was a no from me. I was like, no, just no. And it probably doesn't help that I'm extremely stubborn, but it's in that particular instance when I was just a bit like, okay, it's just because I'm a mum now, I can't aim high, or I can't aim for better or different. And I think that consistent thing of just not following what I think I should be doing. But yeah, there's actually, I remember the scary, not so nice conversations and the jobs that didn't tick all the boxes a lot more, and use them as sort of my learning curve.
Yeah. They're the moments of growth. And this is what I try and work with so many people, is it's the setbacks that will actually propel you forward so much more than actually just the continuous progress. It's the setbacks where you really find out who you are, what you're made of, and how you actually can trust yourself.
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful book. I think it's Quantum Leap, or no, U Squared. It's an incredible book I recommend people reading. And one of their paragraphs is seek failure. Because if you actually seek failure, that's where you're going to just elevate what you're capable of doing, because it's the failure, it's the magic of growth. And I love your story in terms of how you just jumped in, took the risk and owned you. And it's like, no, I'm going to stand for what I want to stand for. In terms of, it's a lovely story, you now being at the BBC, because you had a phone call before for the BBC, and obviously life events changed. It was obviously destined for you to arrive at the BBC. For you, being a female leader, one thing, and bringing courage to your leadership, what does that mean for you? And how is that so important for you and who you are, but then what you can do for your team?
I think that's a really, really good question. And again, because of the whole current conversation, and actually the BBC have been talking about it internally quite a lot, and hearing the stories are, like, we talk about what, what a courageous leader is. Well, women, and particularly women of colour, but women have to be so much more courageous the moment, you know, they probably from childhood, from probably like before they have recollection of a memory. But, you know, from the moment we step out the door, actually sometimes internally too for some women, but to actually just going into work, you have to be courageous.
Yeah.
Let alone starting a job and starting to be a leader without being like, oh, she's a female leader or he's a male leader. Just be a leader. And I think just getting that recognition is so hard that I think there's a lot to be said about that. And I think for me particularly, my strength is my vulnerability.
Yes.
My strength is my openness. And like I said before, all my weaknesses that I thought were my weaknesses that are now my strengths. So actually being a mother means I'm more maternal and I have time to listen. I get those feelings and I understand that. I mean, not that only mothers can do that. Maternal instincts come to everyone. I can be strong and I can be flexible. I can adapt to a lot of different things. And I think having a very distinct voice means that, I guess, people will always question, and you know, every time I speak about certain things, they're like, "Oh, it's because she's Indian, and of course she has that opinion, and of course she's female." But actually, just standing by it repeatedly and showing that consistency of like, actually, no, I'm saying this because it's what I truly believe in, not just because of who I am and what I look like. So yeah, it's a really, I don't know, it's something I'm still grabbing hold of.
Okay.
But I think it's really important for other people to see you in that role as well. But just having the openness to talk about it. And like I said, I don't have all the answers yet. I'm still learning. I still look at other women all of the time.
Yeah.
And just go, how are they doing it? And I think, you know, there's a real old school way of thinking, if it's working against those stereotypes of, oh, she's a woman leader, she's a bitch.
Yeah.
Or all of those things, and trying to work against those stereotypes. I don't have to be mean. I don't have to be degrading to other people. I can be soft and strong at the same time.
And are you seeing that change in your environment, that stereotype is starting to be let go of now?
Slowly, yeah, for sure. I think we are miles ahead of many other countries, which is great, but we've got tons and tons to learn. I've still got tons to learn. I still have those stereotypes in my head. I still have that voice in my head that tells me, you know, Marie, you can't do that because, you know, and it's so ingrained that it's great that we can open up and have the conversation about it. And never have I ever in any other organization had the openness and the confidence, probably because I didn't have the confidence, that if I say something, I will be heard.
Yeah.
You know, I still maybe have to say it 2 or 3 times, but I really love the fact that you can voice an opinion and someone out there is going to hear you.
Yeah.
And I do think the BBC have their faults, have their downfalls, and is, you know, it's an old corporation. But the fact that I can raise that voice and it is heard, at least even if it's by one person, that's massive.
It just means so much. And it is that whole thing is being heard is one of the biggest gifts you can give to somebody. It's just, first of all, allowing them, you know, listening to their voice, giving them that space to speak and hearing them. Because all human beings actually want is to know they matter. That's all we fundamentally want is, do we matter? And can we share who we are? And I've seen you in action. I did some work with you and your team. I've seen you with your team, and it was beautiful. And actually a rare thing I saw happen is you really do bring all of you. You are truly vulnerable with your team, very open with them, very transparent. You really allow them to see you. What impact have you seen that style of leadership and you bringing all of your leadership has had on your team? What difference does that make to them?
I love my team and I have so much faith in them. They're such incredible human beings. And my first experience of it was at McCann, where I got to lead a team. Thanks to you. And you know, you suddenly go from being peers to like, oh, I'm leading, but actually I'm still me, and I didn't suddenly just have all the answers just because someone changed my title. I didn't suddenly just woke up one day and go, right, that's how we're going to do it, because I know that's 100% right. And for me, rather than telling people what to do, it became an opportunity to go, right, let's come together and figure it out together, because you're an expert in this, you're an expert in that. Let's elevate ourselves together, because that's what team means. Making individuals feel like they're contributing is my biggest power. Like that is the biggest tool I have that I can help with as a leader. And showing, you know, we talk about courage, and my courage comes in consistently doing that, consistently pushing them, consistently asking them, what do you think? Because I don't want to be a leader that comes in and tells you what to do. I will do to a certain extent, you know, I will put my foot down, and I will, you know, make the final decisions on things because I want it to be my responsibility. But I want people to, you know, one of those bosses who always said, just bring me a solution, don't bring me the problem. You know, for me, that's what, you know, I can run a team that just does what I say, and we all go home and that's it. But then, is that really fun for anyone? Not for me.
There's no fulfillment and there's no real growth. And what happens is when you've got a team that's so reliant on the leader, they never learn to self-trust or become reliant on themselves.
No.
So you're bringing that ability to allow them to be empowered, to think for themselves, to make decisions, to embrace mistakes and not get crucified for it. They learn from it. And I've seen it, you know, you create this psychologically safe environment for them to show up as them because you show up as you.
Yeah, and I don't want to be honest, it's because I don't have the answers all of the time. So actually, when somebody else is giving me an answer, I'm like, thank you, because you're going to make me look so good. And we're going to share this because we're going to both look good.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't want to shield them from growing. I don't want them to shield them from recognition. But they're all such great individuals, and they bring so much to the plate every single day. Every single day I'm amazed how much they can do. I can't actually do what they do as well, which obviously they didn't know that before this, but now they do. But yeah, I think it is just incredible how much they take on board, and they keep rising to the challenge.
Yeah.
And it's really fun challenging people. It's really fun pushing them bit by bit and just being like, you can do it. Of course you can.
Yeah. And seeing that excitement when they realize they can. And that's the beauty of leadership, is you're growing future leaders. And that's what you're doing with your team. You're not making it about you. You're making it about them and their success and where they can take it. Because ultimately, as you say, the ripple effect is then you look great as a leader because you're growing future.
But I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm totally selfish. I just want to look good. But they do, they really do. And any failure on that part, you know, is my failure too. And any, you know, I want to be able to share all of it. And my vulnerability means that I can have a very clear, open conversations. I just don't think I've ever been very good at doing the game playing, or get confused very easily. Yeah. Again, such a producer, such a project manager. Just tell me what needs doing really clearly, and I can do it, and I'll find a solution, or at least it'll be easier to get to that solution. And I think when the whole, just like, if I don't know the answer, I'm not going to sit there guessing
and
pretending that I know.
Yeah. And it's being okay that you don't. And as you said, it's so important that just because you got this leadership title doesn't mean you've changed who you are. And it's still okay to ask for help. And what I'd love to know, Diya, for you as you continue to grow in your leadership, what is really important for you, like how the world's changed now and the future of leadership? What's going to be important for you in your growth of what you really want to focus on and make sure that you see in future leaders, and what's going to matter the most to you?
I think one of the most important things, I guess, is just from this last year of the communication. It needs to be, and showing that vulnerability, because you're not sat across desks all of the time anymore. You're not communicating in a similar way where there's that human element.
Yeah,
that's missing, and I think it can all be in your head a bit too much. Where you're sat remotely and where you're sat sort of in your own bubble. So I think going out there, just having that very normal human conversation, and I sort of encourage people to do that, because it actually helps a lot with stakeholder management, like managing up as well, because all senior people are human too, and they want to hear from everyone too, and they just want to do better. So I think that's one of the key things, is just carrying on being a bit more human. And asking questions and not sort of just taking it, because there are so many different ways of doing things now. Just, does it have to be done like that? Like, does it really have to be? And working at the BBC, they love a process, which, hallelujah to me, brilliant. That's music to my ears. But does it have to be always like that? And just not changing for the change's sake, but just revisiting things all of the time, and stepping out your comfort zone. Which has been my favorite thing I've learned from you. It's completely terrifying, and it makes me so sick to my stomach every time. But it really does work.
It
really does.
And I like to frame it for some people. Sometimes when you say stepping outside your comfort zone, it feels like, oh, that's quite a big action to do. When you can kind of reframe it to expanding your comfort zone, it's like, oh, I can keep nudging it and making it bigger, and it doesn't feel such a bigger thing that you can go there. And I remember we did a role play on the training you did with me. We pushed you massively outside your comfort zone, but you went for it, and that's what it is. It's being fully committed, jumping in and just going, I've just got to give this a go. I've got to go for it. And I think that's wonderful in your leadership, is you're willing to embrace. And you've touched on something really important for the future, and it's been written about a lot at the moment, is how important it is to have leaders who can challenge the status quo. That's going to be the real future fit leader, being able to challenge the status quo, being able to lead the person as a whole human. It's quite interesting language, but I'm seeing that a lot now. We're leading the whole human now. Leaders need to understand mindset, behaviors, thoughts, feelings, beliefs, actions. Why do people do the things they do? And not just coming from your own point of view. And I know that's been a big learning for you, is to realize that we just don't all think the same. And that's
that is literally, it's opened up like new windows in my head almost, where I'm just like, we did the CDIS training with you, and just understanding, actually, when I'm saying that is blue and actually that's lighter blue, you're hearing and seeing something completely different, and you've received that information completely differently. You've not even received it as information. You've received it as my feelings, and all of those things, and you're just like, wow, okay, that's completely flipped it for me. And I think where we're spending majority of our time on a Zoom call or at work, and there's so many big life things happening parallel at the same time, it is really important to really listen to people as leaders. And I think for me, what makes them courageous is all of those bits, is the consistency of how they keep doing those little things that help the team.
Yeah.
And I think that's what changes. I think I said this to you earlier, so I've remembered the quote now. But like, what changes you from being just an employee to a leader?
Yeah.
Which is, you know, what I felt like I did was actually giving you a bit of me, rather than just ticking all the boxes. I know how to do the process. It can be really regimented, but actually just getting excited about people. So I think that's really important. It's just the little things that you keep pushing people with, and
it is that consistency, the consistency in showing up, the consistency of showing up as you, that you don't change and all of that, and they don't know who you are, is so powerful, incredibly powerful. And just before we close, I'd love to know, what's that one bit of advice, because you've got now years of wisdom collected. What's that one bit of advice you'd have given to young Diya at the time to go, if I'd have opened that, what would you have said?
I'd have given her a big hug saying it's going to be okay.
Lovely.
You know what? I don't know if I want to change anything, because I wouldn't have landed where I am now. There's such a butterfly effect of that domino effect, of whatever it is, of where all of those events, like I said, all of the horrible things that happened, and all of the anxiety that I had, but then I learned through it. I don't almost want to change it, because I feel so confident and so centered in myself now that, I think maybe slow down. But God, if someone had told me that at the time, I would have punched them in the face. But maybe don't punch people in the face would have been advice. But yeah,
you would have.
I think, you know, I wasn't ready to hear anything else. And I think those things had to happen. Those emotions had to be lived. That anger, the hours of ranting I did with my colleagues and friends about how unfair the world is. I still do. But I think it wouldn't have made me. And I finally got to the stage where I don't want to change it. I don't want to change who I am. I just want to grow, like you said, like expand my knowledge and keep pushing. But I feel I'm really happy to say that out loud, actually. I feel really happy being me.
I'm going to send you this recording so you can just play it back and you go, this you reminded me, it's a beautiful quote of be me because everybody else is taken. So the energy we spend trying to compare ourselves, or actually there is only one of me, be me, everyone else is taken, and I'm going to own me. And you know, it's taken I've been on the journey like you have to get to where I can be me. And it does take that journey, but it's one that's worth going on. It makes that difference to do something for you, say yes to you, and do something today that your future self would thank you for. And that's a kind of a mantra I always live by, is like, is this action going to take me to that future self that I really want to be? Or is it going to keep me away from it? And Diya, your story is so inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing. Is there any final parting words that you'd like to share before we close?
I think, thank you so much. Thank you so much for all the support since I've known you. And God, why weren't you there before? But also just, I think, to anyone who's doubting themselves, just or going through a shit time, lean into it. I know that sounds really horrible, because it is really difficult out there. And it's really easy for me to say that. But like, lean into it, because fighting against it is going to make it so much harder. But again, I know I'm becoming that person who's telling myself to slow down, and I don't want to hear it.
And you say everyone's got to go through their own experiences. And I say if anyone is going through a bad time right now, the biggest learning I asked is ask for help. It's okay to not be okay, and you don't need to do it on your own. And there's lots of people out there that will support you. And I think that's what's being a great leader as well, is being there for other people, but also as a leader, knowing you too can also ask for help. You're not on your own. And I think sometimes there's leaders out there that maybe feel that they've got to know it all, and you don't. And Diya, I think that's what you shared so lovely tonight, is you don't need to be on your own. You can ask for help. That can come from your team, your peers, your stakeholders, and surround yourself with good people.
Yeah, I think I've been, again, so lucky with some incredible colleagues who I definitely call friends, family now. And without them, I wouldn't be able to do any of this. Yeah. The consistent support, the incredible women I've met as well, who inspire me every single day. Yeah. But yeah, I think just there are nice people out there.
Oh, goodness. There's more nice than bad. Just, yeah.
Exactly.
Surround yourself with them. Diya, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much.
And for those that have stayed with us watching live, thank you. And we'll see you next week for another episode of the Courageous Leaders Club. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.